Hello and welcome. This is how I've been running the Throne Room Massacre Survival Hardcore Rifted for quite a while now. This build is heavily inspired by Mushroom Cake's build. I'll leave a link in the description. Just going to quickly show my stats. I'm on my alt account for this, so I've only got, 60 or 80 hours played on this account. 6k power on the DST is the big factor there. Range for the Ensnares and Electric Aura. Rifted Fusion auras about 4k, 4.5. 5k power on the beamer here too. This beam is going to go across these two ledges to set up for the DSTs and auras to all be on this 160 buff beam stretched all the way across here. I'm going to set up some DSTs. The setup here is rather deliberate. I'll talk about specifically what I'm doing here, but I'm going to do 4 DSTs down the boss lane here, and I aim them through that wall because they can target enemies as soon as they come out of that door, so I want them to be targetable as soon as possible. And all 4 of them straight down the boss lane. These are the 4 DSTs that I'll be standing on during the boss fight. I'll be using a speedy. I'm just checking here to make sure that they're actually on the beam. Then I've got 2 going down the non-boss lane here, and then 1 going to the north lane. Now, the way they're laid out is such that if I stand on the middle 4 DSTs, the speedy hits the middle 4, so I've got 1 down the non-boss lane, 1 on the north lane, and 2 down the boss lane, all covered with the speedy. I've got my electric aura going down here. I move it out as far as I can while still getting it on the beam. The 6th or 7th step is where it ends up for my range here. 4 level ups on that fusion electric aura, and then I do the same thing on this side. I like to level up these auras pretty heavily in the beginning because the fodder enemies, I don't want them to be anywhere near the middle of the map, and I don't have any walls, at least that are going to protect from those enemies. I do have a couple walls in this build that I get into. I have stripped gear here. Stripping the gear off allows me to put these down such that they'll also be on the beam. So what ends up happening is all 3 of these aura stacks end up kind of crossing each other, and you can tower boost and hit all 3 of those aura stacks. A few levels on this electric aura as well. Gonna put the gear back on here. Head on over to the aura stack or the tower stack here and just pump some levels into the beam. I do have some reflects going down next, and a strength drain aura. I do put a strength drain aura down. This is sort of a just in case kind of a thing. Sometimes the boss fight can be a little weird, and there seems to be an element of RNG with how ogres end up hitting the map from copters and stuff, but these reflects end up being quite enough to protect from thrown kobolds and snot balls and stuff. 1 DU each. That one just protecting against, in case you get an ogre out of that north lane, he'll stop and throw something at you. That one is plenty to protect it. Now, I've got some 3 DU EV walls going down here, 6,000 on the fortify for this. These walls, 3 DU each, I put them down so that they hit the beam, they get some armor from the beam, and just coming down to the top or the bottom of the stairs, if they're all the way in to the middle, if they stretch out into the middle of the map, the boss can hit them and he'll aggro to them. I'm checking to see if they have armor. This one did not have armor. I always check to see if there's armor on my stuff to make sure it's on the beam. Now it's on the beam. But if they don't poke out of the stairs, the boss can't really hit them. I'm showing here that I'm using a speedy gemstone. It's the same speedy gemstone. This is my alt account that I've done all of my progression on stream for. I'm using my campaign Drake Tooth here. Don't need one from the Summit Survival for this. And then the majority of the mana is going to go straight into the DSTs. A few levels in each is going to be fine. Not really concerned too much about spreading it all that evenly, but the DSTs are going to be plenty to manage this, especially with the speedy gemstone. The speedy gemstone just adds a ton of value to the build, being able to boost 4 DSTs. So here I've got each lane covered by a boosted DST. Now, a few goofy things happened during this run. I was going to capture a cleaner run, but, if I leave the mistakes in, it shows that I guess there's a little more wiggle room. My first win with this build was actually with far lower stats in my live progression. I'll link to that if you want to see how low I did this. I think it was like 5,200 power on my DSTs, but my gear is pretty modest on this account still so far. Some bad items, some things not maxed out, so you can definitely get some better stats than this without much more effort. But I did forget to swap the overclock beamer back into my deck you may be able to see, you may be able to tell that the overclock is not actually fused right now, so you could use anything. Mushroom Cake uses a fused healing aura. Gonna go ahead and collect the mana now, and my upgrade priority is I usually max the electric auras out just to make sure that the fodder enemies are taken care of mid-wave, and because the DSTs are going to be preoccupied by the boss. I don't want anything sneaking through. Maxing out the electric auras is just a little bit of security for making sure that the fodder enemies get taken out. I put a level into my ensnares, mostly because on this account, this guy's got very, very low fortify by comparison to my main account. The auras just don't have a lot of health, but I always start off the waves with an overdrive. I'm going to skip forward here. Now, here's another pretty big oopsie. I run into the lane to try to collect some mana. I meet a spider, I get webbed, and a wyvern kills me. So I lose like 6,000 something mana. I would have been able to max out my DSTs. Whoops, but I didn't want to redo the run, so I just kept it. Gonna skip to the boss fight now. I boost right before he comes in, and then I shift over on the DST stack here. These 4 DSTs, all shooting down the boss lane, just hammer away, and then I plug some shots into the lane. Why not? There's some weirdness happens here, and it's toward the end. This is another reason that I wanted to keep the run in. I think at the end of this, you'll see, I think the game thinks I died, or maybe I did, I'm not really sure, but here's the strategy. I think it's important for this fight to have your audio up pretty high, that way you can hear the missiles coming. As soon as you see them, though, move out of the way, you know? If you juke the missiles back into that north lane, you'll have them, because they come in high and angled down toward you, they're never going to come through your DST stack and hit them first. They're always going to come for you. So you can juke them and cause them to hit the ground. What ends up happening in this run for me is I don't do that very well for, I think, this round of missiles coming in. I juke them and they go low and then high. So you'll see one comes circling back around. It actually hits one of my DSTs and it turns green on the right side of the screen there. It's at about half right now. But yeah, I'm shooting him and the DSTs are boosted. I like using a Speedy rather than a Genie because it's hard to make up the value that 4 boosted DSTs adds. But right there, I just kind of teleport back to the north lane, and I'm pretty confused about what happened there. Just happened to catch weird bugs in real time, and maybe I died, I don't know. My mana goes to 0, but it didn't look like I died. Anyway, that's the run. This is what I've been doing to run this, and here's where I noticed my EV is in the deck. My Waller EV is still in the deck, and I didn't swap the overclock back. And the walls, I checked them, they didn't take too much damage anyway, but it's really hard to justify going a Genie over a Speedy for me, in my opinion. You kind of relax on the DST stack and just juke the missiles every once in a while, and it's you keeping 4 DSTs boosted, hammering away on the boss is a lot more damage than you could boost. You could hero boost and do some damage with a weapon. It would be worth it. It would be a good amount of damage. But yeah, this chest is complete garbage, just hot garbage. An obsidian gemstone. It's a pretty good one, but you know, who uses an obsidian gemstone? The blaster and the slicer are the real reason, and a Genie, hopefully a Genie, to run this. But that's how I've been doing it. That's been my game plan. I run this a lot on stream. Link to Twitch in the description. But that's gonna do it for me here. Thanks for watching.